Hello there everybody, my name is Little Panda15 and welcome to a little podcast thingy I decided to do with some background of Risk of Rain, just so we have kind of something interesting to talk about, because Risk of Rain, while it is a fun game and it is interesting, there isn't that much that you can really talk about, so I decided that I would just talk over it, which would not only help me with, I wouldn't have to sync things up, but it also might be more interesting for those of you wanting a little bit more information, just on upcoming things, and you just want to kind of chill out and just kind of listen. You don't want to have to find different videos on different things and piece things together yourself. So what I was thinking about talking about was upcoming releases first. Originally I was going to do recent releases, but the only one I could find that would be of any interest would be the PS4 version of Spider-Man, and honestly I couldn't find all that much to talk about regarding it, other than it seemed like it was a pretty decent game. So I decided to talk about upcoming releases, something that we have a lot more kind of juicy information on, something that a lot of people will probably care a lot more about, because frankly if you want to know about Spider-Man you can just watch Spider-Man. And that isn't exactly the most difficult thing to do. So I decided that I would do kind of one episode per thing, and today is going to be about Fallout 76, because this is an upcoming release that I'm very excited about, and it's the one that I could find the most information on. So I decided to start off with saying that this Fallout is very unlike the other Fallouts. Fallout 1 and 2, they were all kind of this 2D game. Obviously it's not going to be anything like that, just as the most recent Fallouts have been nothing like that either. It's also not going to be like Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 4 in the sense that it is not single player. In fact, it is only online, and it is entirely online. There is no way to play the game offline. You have to play it online. Now it is possible to play it in a private lobby, which means that you could have a solo experience, but it is meant to be online. It's designed for online, and really you're getting the full experience if you do it online. There are benefits that were made for people who play online, but there are also benefits for those that decide to play offline. There are little things for the people who decide to do that. So it isn't totally off the table to play by yourself, but you have to do it through a private server. So something interesting is that this game is being released on November 14th, and it has been confirmed that there will be a beta, or as Bethesda has called it, the Break It Early test application, which is quite interesting. And we don't know when that will be, but what we do know is that it will only be available to those that have pre-ordered the game. It's not an open beta, it's only available for people who pre-ordered the game. Now they have said that you will not be wasting your time if you play the beta, because your progress will carry through into the actual game, which is quite good. That means that you can actually make your character, you can actually set up things for the beta. Now if you were planning to play this on PC, that is still possible, don't worry, but you will not be doing it through Steam. They're going to be doing it through their own Bethesda launcher. The game will not be available on Steam, which is something kind of interesting, because that's the first time that they've released a game like this and not had it on Steam. Other than being online, however, it is very similar to Fallout 4. It uses the same engine, it uses a lot of the same mechanics, and in fact one of the biggest appeals of it is the settlement building system, which was introduced in Fallout 4, except that has been expanded upon tenfold. Now, they have said that a lot of people were concerned about this. They were saying about how it was going to be a lot of payments, how it was going to be very pay to win, especially when people saw the new layout of the perks. Now, this is quite interesting. They do not have the usual perk chart anymore. You cannot technically get every perk so long as you played enough. You have to choose a certain amount of perks. Now the way this works is that each perk has different levels, and different levels require different levels of your special. For example, I believe there's one called Gladiator, and say that cost 1 strength. If you had a strength level of 1, you could put that on. If you had a upgraded version of Gladiator though, which cost 2 strength, and you had a strength level of 1, you would not be able to use it. If, however, you had 3 strength, and you had a level 2 Gladiator and another level 1 thing, you could put them both on, because that would add up to 3. which is quite an interesting way of doing it. I think it's going to force people to make more balanced builds that will help out members of their group. Perhaps you'll have like a crafter and a builder, and then you'll have another guy who's like long range, and then another one who's like a tank. It'll be really interesting to see how people deal with that. One thing that Bethesda said and that really interested everybody and has been expanded upon, and actually seems to be, from what we've seen, working relatively well, is the fact that there are no human NPCs, apparently. Originally, people were saying that there were no NPCs, which they would not be able to do. Because NPCs are simply non-player characters. That's what it stands for. And that includes everything. That includes the super mutants, the robots, the enemies, the raiders, whatever. All of those are NPCs, so if they were to have no NPCs, there would be no challenge to the game whatsoever. And I just don't think they'll be able to do that, especially considering in the trailer we see a robot. So that's completely impossible. What they have said is that there are no human NPCs. That meeting a human will be an especially incredible and special event, because all the humans will be other players. Sorry. Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't going to be traders. This doesn't mean that there aren't going to be people attacking you or people to to trade with. But we think that they're going to be robot traders. Now, the reason that we think there are traders in the first place is because there was actually an image where someone had taken from one of the trailers, and it said that there was a big sign saying trader. And they asked if that was in the game or if a player had put that down, and were replied to by one of the devs saying that that was in fact in the game and was where you could find one of the non-player traders, which is quite interesting. So something else to talk about is that, while there are no human NPCs, so you might be thinking no raiders. Raiders are a massive enemy in the Fallout universe, you kind of need raiders. But instead we have a different faction. We have a faction called the Scorched. Now these are feral ghouls and just basically all based ghouls, and they're a faction that will attack you very similarly to raiders. But the reason that they didn't want to put raiders in the game is because you wouldn't be able to differentiate between a raider and a player. And they didn't want that. They wanted it so that you could tell, you could see, like, oh, that's a player over there. So now with the Scorched, you could look at their face and you could say that's a ghoul. You can't play as a ghoul, that has to be a Scorched. So I know that they're enemies. Now, the Scorched, we don't know too much about them, but we think that they're probably related in some way to the Scorch Beasts. Now, Scorch Beasts are these big, dangerous NPC creatures that will attack you. And, well, yeah, they're like these boss creatures. So, that's going to be really strange, I guess you'll be sitting in your camp, you'll be enjoying yourself, and then suddenly, bam, out of the blue comes this massive monster, and you'll have to defend your camp. Speaking of camps, let's move on to the next bit. This isn't the way it works in Fallout 4. There aren't going to be workshops at very specific locations that will let you build and edit that place. Moreover, you will get a machine, creatively called the camp, and you'll be able to place this machine down anywhere you want, effectively. And you'll then be able to build in that area. So you can build a big base, a really cool base. You could put some turrets down to protect yourself, and you could put that down, you could let it build itself, and then you could pack that up, and then you could move to a different location, you could put that down again. I have to say, I'm really interested as to how they're going to do this. Because if I built a fence around my area, and I put that down, and that was there just on the flat kind of plane that I built it on, and then I went to a place that, for example, had a wall, had like a cliff, maybe, a cliffside, and I put that down there, these fences would have to go into the cliff. But would they? How is that going to work? What if my crafting table, my workbench, like, say, my power armor stand, what if I had that on the left side of my base, and then I put down the camp to the point at which the left side of the base would be inside the cliff? Is it going to go on top of the cliff, or is it going to simply say these plants cannot be placed, please place them in a different area? how is that going to work? So that's going to be interesting. We don't, obviously this is all just, we haven't seen that much gameplay. We've seen a bit. We've seen about 20 minutes maybe overall, if you combine everything, I don't know. But yeah, so we've got the camp, which is a portable workbench effectively, and that'll be interesting. You can build your own little base, you can put that down, you can have your friends come over and you can defend it against players, against the NPCs, and it'll get attacked every now and then by things like super mutants, obviously the scorch beasts, things like that. So that'll be interesting. Now I'll add a sort of risk to just kind of going down and placing that there. There's also the idea, they were talking about how people said about how you could build, as I said, a fence around, and you could put that down on top of someone, and then bam, they're trapped in there. Like, how are they going to get out? So now you can damage things and destroy them. You can shoot the fence and eventually it will break. So that means that if someone came and put down, say, a maze, you could just carve a hole straight through it, which on the one hand is good if you're stuck in there, but on the other hand, if you have a base and someone comes along with a rocket launcher, that's going to be a bit annoying, having your base destroyed, especially if you're low on junk. Now that's another thing. Junk is a lot more useful than it has ever been in a Fallout game. Obviously in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas they weren't that useful anyway, and in Fallout 4 they had quite a use because you could use them for crafting weapon mods, you could use them for crafting your workbench, sorry, not your workbench, your power armor at your workbench, you could use them for crafting your place, your settlement, and all of that, so it was really useful. Junk was really useful there, and you might be thinking, how could it be more useful? Well, the reason for that is that now you can craft weapons, and you can craft ammunition, which is going to be really interesting. You can craft this kind of, I suppose, I think at one point they showed someone crafting a crossbow, which is going to be interesting. I don't know if maybe we're going to get some people that will do kind of these hunter builds, where they'll have bows and knives and spears or something. And then you'll have these other people going around with like Gatling guns in full suits of power armor and stuff. And it'll be interesting to see kind of stealth versus strength, seeing all that kind of thing. Which is another thing with the perks, so you're going to have to make these balanced builds depending on how you play, which will be interesting. However, when you level up, the perks that you're given are randomized, which is kind of annoying, because on the one hand that means that it will be more difficult to get the build you want, but on the other hand, if you could choose them, then it would be a bit kind of unbalanced, because you could just immediately go for the build that you know is going to work, and then you would never have to touch it again, and that would it'd be a bit annoying. So speaking of PvP, PvP is really interestingly dealt with in this game, because when you have a game like Fallout in which you're the main protagonist, it's you versus the world, when you have PvP, probably your mind is going to jump to the idea of what happens if I get attacked. What happens if some people attack me and I don't want to fight? What if I just want to explore? What if I just want to go around? What if I just want to collect this junk so I can make my weapons, so I can make my armor, so I can craft my base, so I can repair everything? What if I just want to go around getting that and I don't want to be attacked? Well, what you do in that is apparently you can put on kind of a pacifist tag. What that will mean is that people will know that you don't want to attack them. And I don't think you can start a fight with anyone else if you have that on. Which will be good because, you can stick that on, you meet someone else who also has that, and you both know that you're both chill. So you can both just go around that area, you don't have to worry about them potentially attacking you, stabbing you in the back. However, being in this pacifist tag does not mean that you can't be attacked. As we well know with games like GTA 5, if you have a passive mode, people are going to abuse it. No matter how you design it, there will always be a way that people will abuse it. So they've worked very hard to make this kind of system where people who don't want to be attacked aren't attacked, and people who do want to be attacked will be attacked, or rather can attack. So if you have someone who really wants to have a fight, they really want to just go, they want to go troll someone or something, and you have someone who's in passive, or, you know, in the pacifist tag, and they don't want to fight. Well, this person who wants to fight can attack the person in the pacifist tag, and it will do what they call a slap. Basically, a very small amount of damage to let you know you've been here, this person wants to fight you. Do you want to fight them? It will ask you that. It will say, do you want to fight them? You can say yes, and that will basically start this kind of PvP. You can both hurt each other at full damage. It will try and balance your levels as well, I think. So if one person has this laser Gatling gun and the other person has a 10mm pistol, it won't just be a case of you're dead. So you start this fight, you're going to have quite an interesting battle, see if you can play tactically. Obviously, if they do have a laser Gatling gun and full power armor and you're in a Volt suit with a 10mm pistol, it's going to be very difficult for you. It will balance it, but it won't make it so the Gatling gun is useless. So you are probably going to just get wrecked, but that's your own fault for accepting the fight. However, if you don't want to fight them, they will do a lot less damage, but they can still kill you. Quite easily, I'd imagine. If, for example, they had a laser Gatling gun, I imagine they could probably still kill you. I don't know how much damage it does if they don't agree to fight. But say you kill someone who didn't want to fight you. It's a bit of a jerk move, isn't it? But whatever, right? They can now add you to, I think is, you can ignore it. You can just say like, yeah, whatever, he killed me, I don't really care. Or you can, I think it's, you can like block them. And what that means is that you won't show up on their radar, you won't show up on their map, and I don't think that your name shows up or something. I can't remember exactly what that did, but basically you won't show up, and it will be extremely hard for them to find you. So hopefully that will kind of detract from the idea, but say if they manage to find you anyway, they manage to find you again, perhaps they just know where you are because you're a friend of theirs, and they ask where you are, and they're like, oh no, it's alright, I won't attack you, and then they attack you again, and they kill you again. At this point, you know, you don't want to fight them still, you just want to explore, and the game's realizing this. It's like, this guy doesn't want to fight, but this person's attacking them. What can we kind of do about that? Well, at this point, if they attack you again, I don't know how many times it takes there, I don't think they really clarified, but they will eventually become a wanted murderer, and basically that will put a bounty on their head, depending on how many people that they've killed that didn't want to fight, and that bounty people can claim. No one else will show up on their radar, which means they will be much easier for people to kill them. And I don't think they have the option of declining a fight either. So people can just, like, someone comes up on the map, they are a wanted murderer, basically go kill them. And if you do kill them, you will get caps. You'll collect the bounty. But the best bit is that this bounty for killing this person that kept killing someone who didn't want to fight will come out of their caps. So that is quite a punishment for killing someone, and you will get caps for killing someone. So of course, you know, you're going to have these people that are going to try and farm caps, but then they'll become a wanted murderer, they'll get a bounty on their head, people will kill them, and they'll lose their caps. So you want to kill people, but you don't want to kill people who don't want to fight. So you don't want to just go out all guns blazing, which I think is going to bring quite an element of balance to the entire thing. It's going to be interesting. Now, what happens when you die? Obviously, one of the great things in Fallout is that when you start off, you find an enemy, you kill them, and you basically just take their armor, you take their weapons, because it's basically guaranteed to be better than what you have. That's something that's really fun when you start out. The first person you meet, you just take everything and you put it on. And that's really interesting. So, surely if I were to walk out the vault and kill someone who was another player, say they were a very high level and I knew them, I could get all of this really OP stuff instantly, right? Well, no. Say you saw a high level player, say it was AFK, and you had a security baton, and you just kept beating him up, and eventually you killed him. You would get a ton of caps because you killed someone who's such a high level. That would be really good for you, but he wouldn't drop his armor, he wouldn't drop his weapon, but he would drop his junk. And this is how they've decided to handle death. You drop your junk, but you do not drop your armor and weapons. So if you die, it's not the end of the world. It's not like, oh god, what am I going to do now? It's more of a case of, I needed that junk. I kind of wanted that. So now you're faced with the decision, do you go back and do you collect that junk from your dead body? Is it worth that much to you? Or was it not that much? Do you just not care? You're just going to carry on your way? Perhaps you'll avoid that area if there's a particularly dangerous NPC or something. So, you'll lose your junk. Now, this doesn't mean that you'll be in constant fear of losing your junk, because you'll be able to store this junk in kind of a safe box back at your base, and at that point it can't be lost once it's in there, which will be, good. You don't want to lose that. So you have these dangerous NPCs, etc. You have this this kind of punishment for dying, of losing your junk, but it isn't the end of the world if you die. However, they have said that if you die, you get to choose where you spawn. So this is good if you get killed by a kind of a tryhard or something, you get killed by a bit of a jerk. You can then choose to just spawn on the other side of the map. You don't want to be near him. So you do that, but it costs you caps. Depending on how far away the location is, it will cost you more and more caps. So what if you don't have any caps? What if you're completely skinned? Maybe you just bought something, you don't have any caps that you have to spend. Well, you can spawn at the location that was nearest to your death for free, and you can spawn at Vault 76 for free. So, that's good. However, they have said that once you're out of Vault 76, you can't go back in, which I guess is to prevent you from just, going in there, setting up your camp, and pointing, 20 turrets at the entrance to the spawn room or something. Or just breaking the immersion by having, someone else continually spawn in your spawn room. Because you don't want that, right? You don't want to have your immersion broken just because it's online. The idea is that all of these people are different people from the vault. So that's how respawning works. And that's also how fast travel is going to work. If you want to fast travel, you're going to have to pay to go to a greater distance. However, I think with fast travel you have to pay to get to the one that's nearest to you anyway. I think. Otherwise you could just go oh my god, an enemy, just fast travel back to this place. Such a kind of sit still and fire game. So I didn't expect to have to come up with